Hello and welcome again, everybody. My name is Ray Bronican, and today I'm going to be talking about how to identify birds really briefly. So, we at Audubon often use these field guides that are really nice because they are just a pocket guide that you could throw literally in your pocket, which makes it a lot easier. They don't have a lot of detail. They have just the amount of detail you need, but for quick ID, they're a really useful tool. When you're birding, it's nice to have a few different tools. Learning how to bird is a really overwhelming thing to take on, and so deciding that in the springtime you're going to learn all the Vermont birds is very ambitious. The best thing to do is to be in the space that you spend the most time and start to get to know the birds around you. So by just watching them, you get to see their behavior, the sounds that they make, the different colors that they are. You start to notice the nuances between them, like how different their wings are, if they have an eye ring, all these special things that are really hard to notice unless you're observing really well. A tool that helps you observe are binoculars. So I love my binoculars. It's just an amazing way to engage in the natural world. It's fun to just, sometimes when I'm doing my sit spot, I put my binoculars on and I just sort of look around. It's fun to just look at something far away. You're not intruding on its space, but you're just observing it from far and seeing it up close. So binoculars are a great tool, and there are a wide range of binoculars. So binoculars can be really, really expensive, middle range, and then there's the cheaper option. So there are affordable ways to get into birding with binoculars. Another resource that I have is my Big Bird Guide, so my Sibley Field Guide to Birds of Eastern North America. So I live in Vermont, so this makes sense for me to have this book for Eastern North America. This also is nice because this is just Vermont birds. And so when we're using guides, there's so many different ways to use them. This guide in particular, it's nice to use because the way that they have it separated is pretty much each column is a different sort of realm of birds, like a category of birds, and they're distinguished by different color bars. And then there are some repeating birds. So the biggest category here are perching birds, those birds with 3 toes in the front and 1 in the back that are always just grasping onto perches. So these are your backyard birds, the birds that'll be at your feeder, the birds that are up in the tops of trees, your warblers. And then the other categories they have just to think about are water birds, so the birds that sort of look like boats, near shore or wading birds, so the birds that are hanging out by the water that have really, really long legs usually. Doves, woodpeckers, etc. So this is sort of these birds don't fit into any realm. So woodpeckers, nighthawks, pigeons, as well as the turkey and the pheasant, and then birds of prey, so our raptors. So these are our carnivorous birds. The other resource that I like to use, and I know that it can be expensive getting all these things, but just like to tell you what I use, is this birding by ear tape. So it's really nice to just, if you're feeling stressed out with the news, to throw on birding by ear. It's a great thing to listen to. I listen to it all the time. It's really hard to learn bird calls. They make a lot of different calls within one species, and so it can be overwhelming. But if you just start to learn, like I said, those birds that are in your space that you spend the most time, it makes it a little bit easier. Just pick a few birds every year, and it's really exciting because the next year you might feel, oh, I didn't learn that many birds, but the next year you already know those 5 birds, and you know them right off the bat, and you can add 5 more, and it accumulates pretty quickly. And then the last resource that I have is this is called Naturally Curious by Mary Holland. She has a newsletter that goes out, and so it is really awesome because you basically get a daily update of what's happening. So I love studying phenology, so the cyclical patterns that happen in nature. So I feel like nature is my best friend because I get greeted by the things that I know and love every single season. So things are always changing. But this is obviously not all birds, it's everything, but it's nice to think about who's coming back and when they're coming back and when they're building nests and when they're leaving. And there's definitely a lot of bird talk in here. And this one is set up by the months. And lastly, my notebook. So I love to take notes of who I've seen, notes of just noticings of differences in birds and behavior and things like that. If I go birding with someone who knows a lot about birds, which I highly recommend you do, it really expedites the bird knowledge. I take notes of what they say because they have more wisdom than I often. Okay, So let's get started with some just basic bird ID. So I brought some, we have this activity that we do, it's called Birds on Sticks. So we put the birds out in the woods, and these birds are to size, and we have people ID them with these field guides, but I am just going to show you them one by one. So this bird is literally this big, so it's the size of my torso. It is obviously, that's a huge thing that I noticed about it right off the bat. Bat is a really big bird. I noticed that it has a red comb. It has a black line through their eye, and it has a really pointed beak. And so to me, those are some things that stand out right away. So if you don't even know that bird, you can just take those notes. This is a pileated woodpecker. So that's the largest woodpecker in North America, and usually it's defined by its size. It has a monkey call that it does as well, which is kind of exciting. That's what I like to say. And also this nice red top stands out in the woods. So that's our first bird. And then this bird, if I show it to you without even showing you the colors, you already can tell what realm it's in, so what category, right? So this bird looks like a boat to me, and when I flip it over, it has a lot of detail and things that help figure out who it is. But so this is a duck. It's floating in the water. It's got that boat shape. I noticed that this bird has a nice green top and then this awesome brown chest. Those are two things that really, really stand out that I really like, and the red eye. Sometimes people get confused by this photo because, so this is a wood duck, and they like the pileated woodpecker, can sort of stand up this sort of furl on the top of their head, which is a really distinguishing characteristic. But in this photo, it's kind of hard to tell. So that's our second bird species. Next, much smaller, but this is the American goldfinch. So things I noticed about this bird: it has an orange beak. It's got black right in the front of its face, but it doesn't go through or around its eye. It also has this white stripe through its wing. So we call these wing bars, and wing bars can be a really great way to distinguish between different birds. So as you become an expert birder and go on with time, there are going to be categories of birds like the flycatchers, and it's going to be really hard to identify the differences between them. And it can come down to something as simple as 2 wing bars instead of 1. Some of the warblers are like that as well. So that's a great thing to note. And this goldfinch is in its spring plumage, so its feathers are bright yellow, whereas in the wintertime they're sort of drab, and so they're like almost brown. They're much darker. So that is something to note too, that birds change as the seasons go on. A nice medium-sized bird that you might recognize at your feeder or in your backyard. So this bird is the blue jay. I noticed that this bird isn't completely blue, though it's called the blue jay. So they have this awesome crown that stands up, just like our pileated woodpecker. They have like this chin strap of black, and then they have black that goes to their eye but not through their eye, and they have a wing bar as well. And then their feathers are sort of like striped black and white at the end, and with that white belly. So that is the way you identify a blue jay. Okay, so we just did the blue jay, which has blue in its name, and then there's this bird, which this bird is completely blue, so it would make sense for this to be a blue bird, but this is called the Indigo Bunting, which is blue in its name. This bird is identified because it is completely blue, and it stands out. They're iridescent almost, so they stand out. They hang out on the tops of the trees, and they like to say their call over and over and over again, and sing it really loud and proud. But this bird has some black on its wing too. Okay, so for our next bird, I'm actually going to take a minute to let you listen. I'm not sure if you'll be able to hear. So you hear that cheeseburger. So that's the chickadee, and that is their mating call. And this is the chickadee here. So the chickadee says chickadee, it says its name, which is really nice, but it also says cheeseburger or hey sweetie, which is its mating call. So that's an example of a few different calls that birds make. And the chickadee is a bird that you've probably saw at your feeder if you had a feeder out over the winter. But they're awesome because they have this black cap, because it's the black cap chickadee, that goes right from under their eye all the way to the top of their head. And then they have a black beak, and then they have a black throat, which is really nice and really helps identify it by those like 2 black smears that create this white triangle. They also have this awesome like creamy buffy color on their belly, which is really nice. And they're a smaller, rounder bird. And there's the chickadee. So compared to this bird, this bird has a black cap, but it is not the black cap chickadee. One, it is a totally different shape of a bird. They have a longer beak. I'm holding it like this because this is how you often see them. They are often hanging onto trees and swooping off of them like this. And this is the white-breasted nuthatch. So a very similar looking bird to the chickadee, but different in the way that their body shape are, especially their beaks. But they both have gray wings, that almost buffy color towards the back. There's a lot more buffy color, cream color on the chickadee, but they have that black cap and that black throat, which is a huge identifier. And then the shape of the bird, like you can tell a nuthatch from a mile away because they're always like swooping off of the tree. This next bird, this is the Cedar Waxwing. So often when you see them, there will be a bunch of them all together, and they'll be making their sweet little trilly sounds on the tops of trees. But this bird has something that we like to call a mask. So it has this black over its eyes, like a wood frog. So it's got that mask, and they also have this tuft too. And if you ever get the opportunity to see Cedar Waxwing nice and close, they have a really amazing feathers. So it looks like someone dipped the tip of their tail in yellow paint. And then they have these awesome drips of red feathers that are really, really beautiful and amazing. And then next, we have a familiar friend at the feeder. So this is a Downy Woodpecker. There are hairy woodpeckers as well, and they look so similar. Hairy woodpeckers are a little bit bigger, and their beaks are a little bit longer. That helps to identify them. So the Downy Woodpecker is pretty cool because they have that awesome little red spot. And the woodpeckers often have this, I feel like they're always like almost dotted white all over in a different way. So I really like that. And then it's nice because it has the separation of those black spots around their head, their stripes. Compared to this friend, who is also a woodpecker, but this is one of my favorite woodpeckers because woodpeckers are often tapping into trees, dead trees, because they are eating the bugs out of the tree, whereas this is the Yellowbellied Sapsucker, and they are tapping into trees. If you ever see those perfect holes in a line, it's this bird here, and they are drilling for sap, and they're drinking the sap in the trees. So they migrate, obviously, because the sap freezes in the wintertime. And so they're making their way back, and they're actually back now, which is really exciting. But they, too, have red on their head. They have red on their chin as well. And they have a really similar like white pattern to their face, that black eye. But you can see that this is a nice black stripe that goes right over the eye. And they do have that little bit of yellow on their belly. And then the last bird that I'm going to show you today is one of my personal favorites. So this is a RedWinged Blackbird, very appropriately named. They have those awesome red shoulders. They're called epaulets. And this is a great photo because this bird is mid-call. So they sing that conch-the-ree. And this is the male call, the male bird. So the females actually, they blend in perfectly to the grass. So these birds hang out in marshes, and I'm sure you recognize them. And the females are this awesome, like mottled brown, different tones of brown, and they're hiding below in the grasses of the reeds of the pond. And their body types pretty much look the same, but they're totally different colors, which often is the case with birds. So it's easier often to identify the males because the males are the ones that are calling, and they're the ones that are brighter colored. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you had a good time and this was knowledgeable for this little bit of information on how to identify birds. If you're looking for ways to put your knowledge to the test, you can think about joining us. We are doing a birdathon, and you can join different teams. You can go out with the people that you've been quarantining with, and it's a great way to sort of test your skills. No pressure, but a great way to just bird at where you're at and see how you're doing. And you can always check out our website for more information. We have tons of information about birding and birds, and we'll be putting out more resources. And then in the future, look to events. You can join us for a bunch of different ways. We do monitoring walks and things like that to gain your knowledge. So thanks for joining me.